Shannon, you know Jeff pretty well, right?
Yes, I think.
Number one, I'm sorry to hear that. And he gave me a ride over to the hotel from the West Florida match inside the dungeon over there. So he threw me in the kidnapper van. Did you know he's got a fake set of blonde hair, like a wig in the van?
You never know when that might come in handy, I reckon.
Exactly.
All right. Now that I feel better now that I shared that with somebody else, Jeff. Go ahead.
Steve, we're back with another episode of the Steel Target Paint Podcast. You know, we start every one of these off with, what have you been shooting? So, what have you been shooting?
Jeff, after the Area 2, took a week or so off and then been back practicing. We've got Alabama State, not this weekend, but next weekend, and then Mississippi 2 weeks after. So trying to get back in game shape. Competition's getting tight out there. How about you, Jeff? What have you been shooting?
Haven't been able to hit too many big matches, local matches. I've been over to Frostproof, down to Hanson, over to Volusia. Our match last month got rained out. Doing a lot of practice, really having a lot of fun with the centerfire pistols, and so I've been spending a lot of time on that. But still, you know, getting the rimfire rifle and the PCC in there. And, you know, that's a lot of guns and a lot of shooting, and we've got a special guest for our listeners tonight. Okay, I'm just going to run down just a little bit of his credentials. 3-time member of the United States IPSC World Shoot Team. He's a USPSA National Champion. He's a U.S. Steel National Champion. He's a Pro-Am National Champion. He's an 8-time Florida State champion. And he's got all more accomplishments than we can all think of. Do you know who it is?
And he's a good-looking guy, too. I do know Jeff.
It's Shannon Smith. Shannon, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Happy to be here. Just to correct my amazing resume, it's a 2-time member of the World Shoot Team, but hopefully it'll be 3 this coming year.
Well, you know, I'm an optimist, Shannon. So we're going through.
I'm sitting in much better shape than I expected for a 46-year-old guy hanging with these kids. So.
Well, you know,
yeah,
that was one of the questions. Go ahead, Steve.
No, I was just going to say, Shannon, it's all over the place. I know Christian's out there kicking butt, USPSA as well as Steel, and I'm trying to fend off these youngsters in the Steel Challenge game, and whew, man, I've had to cut some weight and, you know, like put some time practicing in. It's kind of rough out there.
Yeah, I got some theories on that if you want to get into it later, but I know where you're coming from.
Well, Shannon, let's just talk about that for a second. For our listeners, I know it, and I think Steve does, but what are the qualifications requirements to make a World Shoot Team?
It's changed over the years, but it's pretty simple now. We have 4 qualification matches, the 2 USPSA nationals in whatever division you're striving for, and the 2 IPSC, U.S. IPSC nationals. And those are both in the 2 years preceding the World Shoot year. So World Shoot's every 3 years. So, for example, next year is the World Shoot in 2020. So the IPSC Nationals and the USPSA Nationals from 19 and 18 are your qualifier matches. And it's scored percentage overall in division, and they throw out your worst one. So your 3 best scores of 4 matches totaled up by percentage. So if you shoot 93%, you get a 93. And top 4 guys make the team in division. And it also varies on what divisions they recognize, because they've got, the best I understand it, they have a set budget for each location. For example, next year's in Thailand, so that's going to be significantly more expensive to get there than, say, 2014 when it was in the United States. So they may not recognize a whole bunch of divisions, you know, maybe not a lot of category teams and some stuff like that. So that changes, but, you know, I'm going for the men's open team, and they're always recognizing the top guys. So that's the deal. So I'm sitting pretty good. We've got 3 matches done. The last one is next month in Utah, and I'm in the hunt, more in the hunt than I thought I was. I figured the last World Shoot would be my last go around at 44. So again, as you said, it's tough to hang with these kids, but I'm old and crotchety, and I'm still hanging.
Well, you still got to be fast, and you still got to shoot alphas, and you tend to do both of those quite well. So, I followed I followed the World Shoot day by day, and was excited for you, and I know you were excited on the fact that on last year's on the last World Shoot team, your score actually counted towards the team score. And if I'm not mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys were the gold medal winning team.
Yep, both correct. And those were two goals of mine. They count the top three of four guys on the team, and that's not discounting the fourth guy by any means, because it could have very easily been me. But they do that for a couple of reasons. God forbid somebody gets DQ'd or gun breaks or something. You're still getting a legitimate run, and so of course you want to be one of the guys that gets counted, of course. And I was fortunate. I didn't shoot well. I was very poor performance in my opinion, but good enough to count for the team, and the team get the gold. That was the main thing.
Well, I remember listening to one of your podcasts, and you talked about how you call it the juice, but you felt like you were a little nervy, and then when you had a bad stage, and when you finally went, well, I'm just going to shoot and have fun, you kind of loosened up, and it started coming together by the end of the match, correct?
Yep, exactly. And you guys experience this in big matches, and the way I describe it is until you're comfortable at that level, you're going to have the juice, and managing that juice is something that you can't practice, I don't think. I've not found any way to practice that. You've got to be put in that situation. So for a quick example, when you go out and shoot your first match ever at the WAC or at Frostproof or wherever your local club is around the country, you're probably pretty damn nervous. Once you've shot your 500th match 10 years in, local level, you're not really nervous anymore. At least I'm not. It's just going out shooting on Sunday, and it ain't nothing but a thing. And then state level matches, your first one feels different than your 15th, area level, national level, and that just goes up. So, I'm not nearly as nervous at a state match as I am at a national match, and I feel like I handle it pretty well at national matches now. But at the world level, I've only shot four world championships, and I don't really count the one in the U.S. because I was running the thing, so that was my focus, not the shooting. So I just don't have a lot of experience at that level, and that's what I attribute it to. Not that that's an excuse, but all pressure self-induced. I put a lot of pressure on myself, thinking that this is going to be the last time I was going to make a world shoot team, and the first open team I'd been on, the team prior to that was standard, or what we call limited around here. So yeah, a lot of pressure on myself, and I just didn't perform well. But then, as used to happen back in the day at national championships with me, is once you make a mistake or two, then mentally, I get this mentality that, well, you screwed it up now, you're out of the match, and boom, that pressure's lifted, and I shot very well the rest of the week. But it was just that self-induced pressure, and once I relieved myself from that, I shot well. Too little, too late for the performance that I wanted, but still enough to, 12th in the world is nothing to be embarrassed about, but I know I'm capable of better than that.
Hey, Shannon, I want to talk a little bit about what you were talking about just a couple minutes ago. Let's explore the kid or the junior shooter theory, or these folks that are not in a protected class like myself and yourself, and certainly Jeff. So tell me a little bit more about what's your theory about these kids.
So I get the occasional student, as you guys know, I teach for a living, and I get the occasional student that wants to be a champion shooter, wants to be a professional shooter, wants to be a world shoot team member or whatever. More often than not, this occasional student is 30, 35, 40 years old, maybe. And, I tell them a story. You take a KC CBO, for example, which is a good example because he crosses both steel and USPSA. To make a long story short, his dad had him dry firing at 7 years old in 1911. And I'm not going to get the story exactly right, but he dry fired for like a year or two before his dad would let him shoot a match. Then he let him come out and shoot a match. And at 9 years old, he's winning local level matches. 10 years old, he's shooting on the national level. The first time I saw him was at the World Speed Shooting Championships in Peru in 2000. He was 11 years old. He had hair down below his. The compensator of his Limcat open gun was below his knees, and he was on the Super Squad. Now this is back in the Steel Challenge days when there was one division, really a couple divisions, limited and revolver maybe, but he was top 10 against, and this is when everybody played, Rob Latham and Barnhart and Enos and everybody, and so flash forward to. That was 11. This is 19. Oh, I'm sorry. That was 2000. This is 19. So he's been competing at the national level with the best in the world for 20 years.
Right.
19 years.
Right.
And he's only 20-something years old. I don't know, he might be 30 now, but he's freaking young. So, he has the same level of experience that I have, but he's 15 years younger than I am.
Right.
And so I tell these students, like, that's what you're up against, man. I don't want to bust your but you don't have a snowball chance in hell. Like, it's not gonna happen. And you can get way better, and you can compete at the national level, and you can have a great time in the sport. You can play the sport till you're 80-something, which is awesome. But, bro, no. And in KC is a rare scenario. So I've seen 100 kids like this in my years of competing. And I also tell these students, like, I probably wouldn't recommend you be a professional shooter for your career. Go go to engineering school and get a good job and make some money. But what happens to these phenoms, and I don't know Christian that well. I mean, I know him to say hi, and I was in a junior camp with him and some stuff like that. I did hear a podcast with him on somebody else's podcast. He was in school now, which is awesome. But what happens to these phenoms, and I've seen tons of them, and they get to be 14, 15, 16 years old, and they're really good, master level, knocking on the door of competing at national level. And then, boom, you hit that age, 17, 18, and now what are you going to do? They either find a girlfriend and get a car and go have fun, or they get off of daddy's money, can't afford the sport anymore, or they go off to college, or some combination of the above, all of which are probably better things than shooting for the rest of your life. And then I've seen many of them come back when they're 32 with, 1.5 kids and a white picket fence and a mortgage, and they've lost it. They're out. The world champions are the guys that never have that gap. And the only way to not have that gap is to get picked up. Most of them go the AMU route. Those are the easiest examples to cherry pick from. That's your Travis Tomasi, Max Michel, Casey Cebio, Shane Coley, Julie Galab. That's where they all went. They never had that gap of going off to do whatever. Then they get picked up by a big name sponsor, and that's your world champions for the next 20 years. And that's the cycle. So, on the kids coming up, I say, just hang in there, man. Just hang in there. Because they're going to have to get a job at some point, and they'll be gone.
Man, Shannon, Jeff and I have talked a lot about that. There's a couple of GoFundMe accounts for a couple of these juniors just to get them, a 6-inch lift and some 35-inch tires.
There you go.
Oh.
Yeah. We mentioned to a lot of them. We mentioned to a lot of them that find a girlfriend. Oh yeah, you're 16 now. Dad, buy him a car. That'll help.
That's right.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
So,
it'll happen with 99% of them. It'll happen.
You mentioned something, and I've taken classes with you, and you consider yourself a shooting professional, not a professional shooter. And I think I know what the difference is, but why don't you explain that to our you make your living in the shooting world, but you don't make it from shooting.
Right. And, when somebody I don't know asks me what I do for a living, I say I'm a professional shooter just because that sounds cool and they don't know any better. But, those in the know. There's, how many NASCAR jerseys do you see running around the local matches or the major matches? And nobody wearing those jerseys are making a living from shooting. So I explain it like, if you know the difference between a professional golfer and a golf pro, that's the difference. And, your golf pro is a really good golfer. Some of them are even on the lower level tours, or maybe some of them even get their tour card for a year or two and then maybe lose it for a year or two. But they make their living running the pro shop at Augusta National, or running the pro shop at the Trump course or whatever. And they teach And that's kind of the same with me. You know, I have a three-tiered approach for what I do for a living. I work for and partners in Universal Shooting Academy. So we make our money from hosting matches, competitions, from teaching, and we teach quite a bit, and then from shooting. So the main reason I go out and shoot, aside from the fact that I love it, is just keep your name out there and get name recognition. And people are are not going to come train with you if you're not out there doing well. And that's across the board. We work a lot with some high-level government agencies, and they're coming to us for the same reasons, because I are some of the best competition shooters in the world. And that, excuse me, that's what they want to learn. They want to learn how to shoot better. They're assuming that a guy that's one of the top-level competition shooters in the world is pretty good. And so that's where they come. So that's where I get the shooting professional, as opposed to a Rob Latham or a Max Michelle, who are solely getting a check to go out and compete. And there's very, very, very few people in the world that are in that regard. Very few. Jesse would be one, but again, very, very few of them.
Hey, Shannon, let me ask you, we try to ask the guests that are shooters that are on our podcast to give the listeners a shooting tip, maybe something that was an aha moment as you were growing up throughout the competitive shooting world. What's a good shooting tip that you can share with others that, maybe isn't readily apparent for folks?
The readily apparent part gave me pause, but
Sorry.
I'm pretty simple, man. I'm a redneck from West Virginia, and I break things down into the most basic level. And the biggest success for me, the biggest aha moment for me, was hit the that you're shooting at, and it just comes down. It just comes down to fundamentals of marksmanship, and there's people out there doing movement classes. I'm some movement specialist, and I'm not saying, and I'm talking USPSA really, obviously more than
Sure.
Steel Challenge, but I'm not saying that's not important, because it certainly is, but none of that matters if you don't hit what you're trying to hit when you get there.
Right.
And to relate it to Steel Challenge, I would be willing to bet that if you shoot 5 times on 5 to go, that's going to be faster than shooting 7 times on 5 to go. So, I use different foot placements in my stance. My stance is crazy different for Steel Challenge versus USPSA. And I think all that helps. I think all that's important. Transitions are obviously important. Draw is obviously important. But helping the new guy out, or the middle of the road pretty good guy out, is going to be better served by fundamentals marksmanship and hitting what you're aiming at the first time. That's going to be the biggest avenue to improve your scores. And if you got time for a 2-minute story,
Let's hear
when
it.
I first moved out to Universal, like I used to shoot. I always shot the Steel Nationals. I only went out to Piru one time. I was actually leaving the Army in Washington State, and I had been shooting some Steel Challenge out there. I was the king of the hill out there, which is a whole nother story. But anyway, I swung through Piru on the way home to West Virginia to hit the Steel Nationals. That's the only, or the Steel World Shoot, World Speed Shooting. That's the only time I shot out there in Piru. But once I started the Steel Nationals here over in Titusville, I used to always went and shot that. But I never practiced. I didn't have anywhere to practice Steel Challenge. I don't know what sparked the craze in Steel Challenge in the last 5 years here or 7 years here, but in the early 2000s, it wasn't like that. I mean, there was no local steel matches. Nobody had it set up. Like, there was no way to practice it. So I'd go over to Titusville for the Nationals on Wednesday. They had practice available, so I'd shoot Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then practice, and then shoot the match on the weekend, and that was it. Well, when I first came out to Universal, they had added on, if you're familiar with the range, all those southern bays were built specifically for the Steel Challenge World Shoot that came here. And so they had all the stages set up. Well, when they're all set up, it makes it pretty easy to practice them. So I would go out getting ready for the Nationals that year, and Manny Bragg was working with me at the time there. And we put in some work, man. We, a couple, 3 weeks out, we started hitting 3-4 runs a day. a couple runs in the morning, a couple runs in the afternoon, different divisions. And lo and behold, I got gooder when I was shooting it a lot. And one thing that I started doing was logging. We didn't have the tablets back then. Everything's on paper. So when I was writing down my scores, I would log any extra shot that I took that I had to keep. So if it was a throwaway string, I didn't count that. But any strings I had to keep, if I had an extra shot on that string, I made a note of that. And I'd put a 1 and circle around it, 2 and circle around it, whatever. And so I started tracking that data and adding it up at the end of the match. And this is going to shock you, but the least extra shots I had to keep in a match, the lower my overall score was.
Right.
And you talk about an aha moment, that was probably it, because you see it in black and white. Like, you can't refute the data. And I was like, damn. So then I went out to strive to, shoot a clean match, no extra shots on all 8 stages. And that's probably going too far. Like, you're good. If you offer me $1 million to go out there and not have an extra shot, I could easily do that. But that wouldn't be a score that's going to be competitive in the match,
Right.
See, there's a balance in there. But that was the biggest thing to me, is like, once I saw that on paper, it's like, you don't have to go so hard, man. You just have to hit stuff that you're aiming at. And that's the year I went out and won the Steel Nationals in Ironsight division. And that's probably not a coincidence, A, the fact I practiced, but B, the fact that I figured out you're good enough. You're fast enough, man. You just got to aim at the middle and hit it the first time. That's the biggest thing in steel challenge, but shooting in general, hit stuff the first time. That's going to be the easiest thing you can do. Well, not easy, but the best thing you can do to improve your overall score in whatever you're shooting.
Well, I'm as I said early on, I've been shooting a lot of iron sight pistol lately in steel. And while I'm not as fast as you are, it's still 1 for 1 are always going to be the best runs I can put down at my skill level right now. So that actually translates to all skill levels. And then,
absolutely,
as you begin to again break down the fundamentals of marksmanship, grip, stance, trigger press, everything else that's involved in that, and then you get to transition faster and your eyes get faster. And I've always said that this is a learned skill and a diminishable skill. And your point about practicing, you honed your skill, you put the time in, and I'm guessing 6 months after, if you hadn't shot any steel, you went back out, you wouldn't be at the same level because you hadn't been doing it. And
for sure,
and I think that's what a lot of people think, is they just need to go out there and go fast, and they end up, specifically in steel, they end up missing so much. Or in USPSA, here's some targets I can take on the move. And they take them on the move, and it's Charlie Delta or Delta Mike. And, yeah, they were fast, but they didn't hit anything. So to your point.
You can't tell that. You can't tell that on Instagram, though.
Oh, yeah, their videos look awesome, That's I always said, steel. You watch steel on a video, whether they hit it or not. It's not like
right.
the paper game. So, well, you talked about you do a lot of training there. Give yourself a little plug for how people can get in contact you for training.
Sure. Any of the social media avenues. Universal Shooting Academy is our company. We're located in Central Florida. Easy drive from Orlando or Tampa. But I run all the social media for us. So Facebook, Instagram for Under Universal. And then I have my own brand, Shannon Smith Shooting, also Facebook, Instagram. Just give me a holler, email or reach out through social media. I unfortunately don't have a lot of time. I don't have a lot of weekends. It's been, this is my busy training season because it's a slow match season in the summertime here in Florida. But we're about to get crazy. So USPSA Nationals kick off next month, or actually this month, in a couple of weeks in Utah. And then we have all of our fall matches here, Monster Match, and the Nationals are coming. And then we got Area 6 Multi-Gun, and then boom, we're into January. We got Florida State, Florida Open, and the Multi-Gun Nationals. So unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of time to train. The time I do have, I usually set aside for government contracts. But by all means, give me a call, man. If I can fit you guys in, I'll fit anybody in. And a lot of times what I do, especially once you've gone through my basic course and gotten my level one, even though that's not what I call it, but, gotten my fundamentals down so we have the same terminology. What I do with a lot of folks is we'll just do practice days, and so we'll use it as a recurring student training situation, training day. For example, the USPSA Open Nationals are at the end of the month, so my training practice actually started yesterday. I was supposed to hit it today, but I took today off because of the world-ending hurricane that was coming. So I stayed home with the family and drank beer in the pool all day. It was actually a beautiful day here in Central Florida. But tomorrow I'll be back at it, and shooting every day between now and the Nationals. So a lot of times I'll do that as a class supplement. But you gotta get in. You gotta get in first to get the good stuff down and figure out what I'm talking about. But just give me a holler, and the further out we can schedule, the better. And if you can do weekdays, that's a lot better chance of getting in on me than the weekends with all the local and big matches going on here and abroad that I'm going to. I just don't have a whole lot of weekends available anymore.
So, Steve, you don't shoot much USPSA.
No, I don't, Jeff. It's actually been about 2 years since I shot a USPSA match, since I dove pretty hard into Steel Challenge.
Well, do you know any of the background of the monster match?
No, I do not, Jeff.
Oh, it is so it's 8 stages, 50 rounds a stage, and I've actually seen people go out there and shoot it with a single stack or a revolver, which is insane. I like the PCC because I've got that 57 rounder, so you don't have to reload still. But Shannon sets up a lot of challenging stages, but every year there's one stage, usually a steel stage, that's got a twist. So, Shannon, I think it was 2 years ago you did the inverted table. Was that 2 years ago?
Yep. I think more than that, but yeah.
Yeah.
So we did that.
There was an inverted
heater
table.
hang-ups inversion thing.
There was one where you shot while on a running treadmill. And last year's was a lot of fun. There was a field of about 60 pieces of steel, all painted orange, and you shot through orange caution fencing. And with a red dot, it was quite an experience. So you got a good one coming up this year, Shannon? You got one you got one that's going to get everybody?
We do. I'm running out of ideas. I have a lot of crazy ideas, and it usually takes on average 6 to 8 years to figure out how to do what I want to do. So we're still working on my next crazy idea, but we have a good one for this year. It's something we've never done before. No treadmills, no upside down stuff, but some weird positions, some hanging on ropes, and something we haven't done before. So I'm happy about that.
Oh, 1 year I didn't shoot it, but I saw the video off the Monster Match website. You actually shot from the back of a moving golf cart.
Yep.
The golf cart drove away from the targets.
We've shot while you're hanging upside down, and we've shot from a moving vehicle, and we've shot from a running treadmill. So it gets kind of hard to upstage yourself. And I got one that we've been working on for literally 7 or 8 years, but we haven't figured out how to engineer it yet. So, but we'll get there. We did the moving wall, I think 2 years ago, and that was the original steel stage idea. So it was an 8-foot wall with a port in the middle, and all rounds had to be fired through the port. But the 8-foot wall was on a track connected to a winch and was moving laterally down the range. So you had to move along with it while you're engaged in 70 pieces of steel through a port. And so that was an idea from years and years back, and it just took us forever to figure out how to do it and be able to afford to build the crap.
Well,
so I got another one like that. We haven't done it yet, though.
Cool. Well, don't forget to integrate that casket I gave you last year. We forgot to bring it out. I transported it over there, and we got done with the match, and Shannon went, "Oh crap, we didn't use the casket."
Jeff, I don't even want to know
that this year.
I don't even want to know where the hell you got a casket from.
Well, it wasn't really a casket, but Shannon will make it look like one. It was.
I won't forget this time.
So, Sandy, you said you've been shooting for 20 years plus, and you've shot every division in USPSA. You've shot a number of the divisions in steel, and I know you're going for the World Shoot Team in Open. I mean, is Open necessarily your favorite division, or do you really? I mean, when it really comes down to it, you really enjoy. We just had the all production match here at the WAC, and you came over and shot that. What division really is your passion? Is it open? Is it limited? Is it single stack? Which one do you really enjoy shooting?
Probably open. I mean, I like most divisions. I don't really care for production. I really dislike the 10-round magazine limit. But I shoot a ton of Glocks. Almost all my training classes, all my tactical classes, I shoot Glocks. So, going to a production match, probably not a lot of people think of me as a production shooter, but I'm pretty comfortable behind the Glock. It's just the 10-round thing that trips me up, and I don't really care for that. Probably single stack is one of my favorites just because of the history and the roots and the importance of the gun in our sport. But the main reason I don't compete in that is there's just nobody does. So you go to a major match and you win, great. You beat the other 3 people that shot single stack. So yeah, I've always wanted to be. I'm a competitor first. So to steal a quote from one of my students, I don't care if I'm playing my grandmother in checkers. I won all her goddamn checkers. So I'm always out there. I'm always out there to compete. So I've always wanted to be in one of the bigger divisions, which was limited for a long time, and I shot limited for a whole lot of years. So that's obviously got a place in my heart. But most people don't know I was an open shooter before I was a limited shooter, and so open's always got a place in my heart too. And I look at open like, we're out here to race. So if I'm going to go to a race, I'm not going to bring a Yugo and see who the fastest Yugo guys are. I want to bring the Ferrari, and I want to be the best. I want to be the fastest. The quickest guy around the track is the winner, and that's where I want to run. So, probably open, I would have to say, is my favorite just because of the sheer speed of the game. But full disclosure, I just turned 46, and, my eyes are starting to give me, starting to give me a little bit of problems, and shifting that focus back to the front sight at the speed that I'm accustomed to is not really happening anymore. So I'm fighting that a little bit. So I'll probably be a dot guy from here on out. I'll always play limited. I'm going to shoot the limited nationals this month just because I'm there, and it's a back-to-back format. I'm mainly concentrating on open, but I'm out there anyway, so I'm going to go compete. I'll always run the Glocks. I'll always shoot the production stuff, but probably opens. Where I'm going to stay for a while. The only downside of that is, man, it's fast.
Oh, and, yeah, it's getting faster.
It's like you said that, the kids are getting faster, and, the whole back to the hitting stuff keeps me competitive, because I don't make that many mistakes, but I'm not as fast as the fast guys anymore. Luckily the fast guys tend to make mistakes, and that's what keeps me competitive. So we'll see how long it'll go, but I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question, but, I like a lot of the divisions, but right now open's where it's at.
Shannon, I know you've been around the game quite a few years. Can you offer a little bit of insight on your viewpoint on sponsored shooters? I know you talked a little bit about some of these guys that are wearing jerseys at matches that are helping support brands, but maybe not have a full-time gig. Because you and I met, it was a long time ago. I'm sure you don't remember, but I shot the 2012 World Speed Shoot when I was down in Frostproof. That's when I just really started shooting. I was like, oh, there's a major match. Let me go shoot a World Speed Shoot down in Florida. And it seems like, there's only a couple people wearing jerseys down there. And nowadays, there's a lot of people wearing jerseys. What are your thoughts? Because I don't recall you wearing a jersey, or there was, 1 or 2 sponsors on it at the time.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. Number one, live your life, bro. I don't care what anybody does. None of it's bothering me. There's people out there who say you're representing something you're not, and blah blah blah. I could give two rats about that. My stance has always been like I'm there to compete. I want to go up against the best. I want to beat the best. There's nobody in this game that I know of that I haven't beat, and I take pride in that. And I'm out there to compete, so I'm going to use the best gear that is out there. I don't care what it costs.
Sure.
I'm going to buy the best stuff available. And I don't know what the deals are out there. I don't know what these people are getting. I know they're not getting a paycheck. That much I guarantee you.
Right.
You might get a match fee and 6 bottles of oil, or maybe you get a gun and 5,000 rounds of ammo or something. I don't know. But I've just never wanted to be in that position where I have to use something because I'm under contract and I don't feel it's the best thing out there. The sponsorships I would have jumped on would be an ammo sponsorship and a travel or airline sponsorship.
Right, right.
That's where my fees are. That's where my expenses are over the years is ammunition and travel. My guns are expensive, and my guns are taken care of thanks to the one awesome sponsor I do have, Millennium Custom, and he doesn't even let me call him my sponsor or let me say he sponsors me. We're just friends, and he takes care of me. So I'll leave it at that.
That's cool.
But I've been with Derek for at least 15 years, and he builds the best guns out there, and that's why I use them. I don't use them because he helps me out on the guns. I use them because they're the best. If he didn't help me out on the guns, I would buy them from him. A gun costs what? I shoot the most expensive guns in the world. I don't even know what he charges for them, $6,000-$7,000 or more.
Sure.
But I would gladly stroke a check for that, and not have to, use something you're not comfortable with, just to say that you do, because that's not the biggest expense. The guns are crazy expensive. But if you guys know, if you're going to get into this game, you guys shoot 17 guns in the matches sometimes. if you're going to get into this sport, yes, it seems like that's expensive, but that's not what your costs are, man. Your costs are in ammo, and for me, travel is. If you're going to travel the world or travel the country, hitting big matches, you'll spend the cost of a gun in one weekend at a big match.
Yeah.
But in terms of everybody else, I've got no problems with it, man. If they're getting a little help out, and maybe they're in a financial position where, if you're getting 500 rounds of ammo or something, that makes the difference in whether you can play the game or not play the game. That's awesome, bro. I got no problems with that at all. Knock yourself out. And as far as the shirts, I think they've just gotten less expensive. That's and more available. There was no techwear.
Yeah.
There was no techwear when I started. We wore cotton shirts with embroidery on the back, and it was 1,000,000 degrees, and it was awful. That's what we rolled
Shannon,
with.
Steve and I both shoot for the Steel Target Paint shooting team, but I've always joked that I'm going to get a techwear shirt with a picture of my wallet on the back of it, and it's going to say my sponsor.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
that's who ends up, paying for it. I'm proud to be part of the team, but, and it goes back to what you said earlier, about 18, the kids got to decide, well, I don't have daddy's money anymore. Maybe I got to go out and get a job and be a contributing member of society, and then I'll come back to shoot.
Right. And as hobbies go, I have not had, I was going to say I've not had many, but I could probably just say I've not had any hobbies in my life other than this. And, eventually it turned it into a career. But, as hobbies go, it's not that expensive of a hobby. If you're into, skydiving or scuba diving or golf, we're on par with everything else in the world that you're going to spend your free time and your free money on. And it's all on what level you're at. If you're going to hit a major match a month and 3 locals a week, well, yeah, man, you're going to be spending quite a bit of money annually at this. But the same thing with golf. If you're going to go on a golf trip once a month and play 3 rounds a week with your buddies, it's the same thing, man. Actually, probably more for golf.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think Steve and I talked about it on one of our podcasts, and it's like, everybody gets up in arms about, match fees. And when you really break down the cost of of what it takes to go away for a weekend. And in our case, sometimes shooting, well, maybe not 17, but, at least 6 guns. Your match fee still ends up only being about 25% of your total costs. You're on the road, so you're either traveling there or you're spending gas to get there. You're eating out at every meal. You got a hotel.
Well, and I think you need to, and I would relook your math, because maybe Steel Challenge is more because you have more guns you have to pay match fees for. But I also factor in, I'm getting ready to go to the national championship. So between now and I'm actually leaving early because I got to go out and help them set the damn thing up because I'm an idiot and agreed to it. But
but you're gonna
between now and the 6th.
But wait, Shannon, you're gonna get to shoot the match beforehand, right? Just like you do.
Right. Absolutely, yeah. Shoot it all week. But between now and when I leave, I'm probably going to shoot 5 or more 1,000 rounds, maybe 7,000 rounds. Yeah. So you got to factor that in, and yeah, so I think the match fees are way less than 25%. But you're right, and that's back to the sponsor thing. Well, they cover my match fees. That's awesome, man. That's great. But again, to me, that's such an infinitesimal amount of the money that I spend in the sport. I'm not going to hang somebody's name on my jersey to cover my match fees. But to somebody else, maybe that's super important, and I've got no problem in the world with that.
Great. Well, we've talked about the guns you shoot, and the one that didn't come up, and you just ran your PCC Palooza, and congratulations on that. That's really growing by leaps and bounds last couple of years, and as is that division. But the Universal Shooting Academy is going to host the 2020 USPSA PCC JP Nationals. The match is only going to have PCC in it. What's your take on that? I mean, is this something where in the past the PCC has always been shot with one of the optic guns, or in an optics match where other guns are being shot? Where this is a match that's going to be, I'm assuming, very tailored to what is going to challenge PCC shooters. Do you think that's going to happen?
Absolutely. And I am a PCC fan. I know there's a lot of PCC haters out there, but I'm a fan. And I don't think one of the objections of the division has been you have to modify your stage designs now because you have to account for PCC. And I don't agree with that at all. I've never modified a stage design because PCC is a division. So big fan of it. I think it's great. Where I tell everybody it's United States practical shooting, not United States pistol shooting. So, an AR-style gun is a practical gun, and I think we should be proficient in running one of those as well. The nice thing about a standalone nationals is, yes, you can tailor it to that gun. Just like when we have an open carry optics nationals, I build the stages differently than if it were a single stack and revolver nationals. Absolutely, I build the stages differently to tailor to that gun. Now, if you got a wide open nationals, run what you brung, all divisions, well then you build general stuff. So for the PCC, yeah, I'm super excited. I think we'll be able to do some cool stuff. We'll definitely get some distance in there. The only things I'll have to figure out, and I'll have to butt heads with USPSA a little bit on this, or they'll just tell me I can't do it, which is probably the way it'll go. But the things we did at PCC Palooza, for example, was we had non-reactive steel that we called on the audible, like we would do in 3-gun. So a 70-yard gong that you just ding it. That's not legal by USPSA rules, and probably will still not be legal by USPSA rules when the Nationals comes around. But that's some things I'll ask. That's some things I'll ask them. We have visual indicators, for example, LED blinkers that we use for 3-gun. Is that something we could do? Would that make it legal? But regardless, we'll definitely have some distance involved. However, we have to do it. We used a plate rack at Palooza at 60 or 70 yards, which was a super good test for the rifle. But I would never use a plate rack in a USPSA match because of the rule set. If you edge a plate and it doesn't fall, by rule, that's a range equipment failure reshoot in IPSC, which is why I never use plate racks. But again, for the Palooza, we edge the rules a little bit there, and we just say, suck it, don't fall at the miss, knock it down.
my range, my rules, right? My
exactly.
range, my rules, don't like
and no,
don't
and,
shoot it.
and exactly, and no normal person has a problem with that. But again, it's a national championship. There's a rule book. You got to abide by it. So I don't know if I'll be able to get away with things like that. But if not, well, I'll just put 7 poppers out there, and we'll get a golf cart and to go down and set them up. We'll figure out something. But we'll definitely have some distance involved. We'll have some odd positions. Palooza, we force you to an offhanded shoulder position. Definitely expect some of that. Some low ports.
Do you think they might, because it is going to be a PCC only match, that they might open up on the 8-round neutral stages or 8-round neutral positions? Or do you think they're going to stick with the 8-round neutral?
Yeah, they will, but I can work around that pretty good. I mean, we deal with that all the time, and if you design stages for a living, it's not too hard, man. You punch a hole in the wall that's totally useless, and you would never want to go there. But as long as you can see a couple of those targets from there,
right?
You're abiding by the requirements. So I'm not worried about that so much. It'll be. They're not going to be. We're not going to do 50, 60 round stages, nothing like that. But we'll have plenty of rounds. I thought the Palooza was pretty good. I think the biggest round count we had was like 41 or 42 or something. Most were, high 20s to mid 30s, and I thought that went out pretty well, flowed pretty well. I got all cocky and went into a 32 or 33 round stage with my 41 round Taylor Freelance, and that wasn't enough. So I used my 57 the rest of the day.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
But it'll be a good match. I'm looking forward to it. Things like a low position, a prone position, that just screws your 57 round mag right in the face. So
yep.
A lot of interesting things you can do with PCC that you can't do with pistol, and you could force decisions and positions and stuff that wouldn't otherwise come into play. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be cool.
Well, as I've shot many of your matches and many of the stages you've designed, I know you will provide a technical challenge whenever possible.
Yeah, you better be able to hit stuff. I'll tell you that much.
Well, great. Well, Steve, you got anything else you want to ask Shannon?
I guess the follow up to the Steel Challenge stuff a little bit. I haven't followed your career that closely. I missed you last year. I think you may have shot on Friday and I shot on Saturday at over at Jeff's match. But do you shoot much Steel Challenge anymore or not? Or was that the last time you shot a major type Steel Challenge match?
Yeah, that probably was the last major. I don't, man. And I don't know if this is the reason why, but I'll tell you one of the reasons why. I really like Steel Challenge. I think it's awesome. We shoot it out at our range every week and then once a month as well. I use it at every class I teach. We always go hit Steel Challenge for largely transitions, even if it's a tactical class. If the student is not at all interested in competition, we still always shoot Steel Challenge just because it works the transition aspect.
Sure.
And then obviously your fundamentals as well. I enjoy the game. The biggest reason I don't shoot it is I think it takes so much time to be competitive.
Yeah.
So if I was going to go to the nationals again, which I will when at some point, but it takes a lot of time and a lot of ammo, a whole lot of ammo.
Yeah.
For me to feel comfortable, like I'm doing myself justice to come in there and compete. And not that I wouldn't just go shoot it for fun, because I would. I mean, Jeff's match, I went and shot with no practice and had a great time. But, I'm such a competitor. I need to feel like I'm going to be prepared. And I just don't know that I have the time to be at that level of preparedness to go. and again, not to say I wouldn't go shoot. The other thing on that note, and this is going to sound a little defeatist, but it's just fact. I never go into something where I don't feel like I have a chance to win.
Sure.
I'm not a dumb guy, and I know, I knew going into the World Shoot, if I were a betting man, which I am, I would not have bet on myself. But that doesn't mean I don't feel like I have a chance. Like, I knew I had a chance to win. Going to the Nationals here in a couple of weeks, same thing. If I was a betting dude, man, like, all honesty, we're 2 hours outside of Vegas, like, I would not bet on me. But I'm totally capable of winning. I beat JJ this year. There's nobody out there I haven't beat this year. But Steel Challenge is a different animal, man. Casey and Max and BJ are on a different level. Like,
yeah.
Totally different level. They shoot times in a world championship that I've never, ever, ever come close to in practice. So while I always feel like I have a chance, when I'm going into there, I don't have a freaking chance. Like, there's no way I'm gonna touch these guys. Like, I'm not gonna shoot in the 70s. So, not that that's why I don't go, because it's not. I mean, I know I'm fighting for fourth when I go to Steel Nationals, but to be truthful, that's certainly part of it. Like, it's just not my game. I can go out there and hang my own and top 5, top 6, but I don't have a chance to win against those dudes. They're crazy, man. They're crazy.
And Shannon, man, the times are getting faster and faster and faster. And I don't shoot a lot of center fire besides PCC, but, Ron Oliver and Jeff and a couple other folks, we like to reminisce at every U.S. Steel shooter at the World Speed Shooters. Yeah, remember when I broke 70 the first time? That was like a world friggin' record shooting rimfire rifle open. And now this year, if you shot like a 69, 99 rimfire rifle open, you weren't even in the top 10 or top 15. And PCC,
wow, really?
Oh, yeah, PCC,
Oh, yeah.
a couple of years ago, it was probably 2 years ago, I set the fastest time shot at a major match at a 67.59, and I shot a 66 and some change out in Area 2 in PCC, and, the fastest times there are right in that 65, low 66s, and every year it's just getting quicker and quicker and quicker. There's a kid on our team, not an old guy like Jeff and myself, Chris Barrett. He's probably going to be, if he's not going to be the first, he's close to breaking into the high 59s. He's shot 3 or 4 matches that are local matches, 8-stage matches in, 60 point something. And, man, that's, with any kind of gun, that's just blazing fast. And makeups, you can't, you almost have to shoot a perfect match. And yeah, the times are just coming down and keep coming down. And well, some of that's good though for the sport, because there's, it's more popular and it's growing popularity, as you mentioned, the last couple of years. A lot more people are into it, and I'm having to work a lot harder to fend off some of these kids, but I think it's good for the sport overall.
Sure. And when I was competing, and we didn't have all the rimfire stuff. You had 22 pistol, but none of the rifles, none of the PCC, none of the 22 rifles. So, I'm no familiarity with that in terms of what's good and where times need to be. Everybody knows the stories and the standards and the droppings of time in the centerfire stuff. So I'm sure that's going to be the same type of legacy type stuff in the rifles.
Yeah.
But I'm just not that familiar with it. But yeah, absolutely, man. I think divisions are popular, and bringing new people into the shooting sports, whether they ever play in USPSA or come to it or not, whatever. You're bringing more people into the shooting sports and more people into the gun world, and hopefully those kids will still have to go get a job at some point, and they won't have money to buy 22 ammo.
Preach, brother.
You guys can stay competitive for another couple of years.
That's right.
Shannon, you'd mentioned, you weren't really sure what surged up the Steel Challenge, and I think it's been PCC rimfire rifle, and an increased people wanting to shoot just the rimfire pistol. If you look at the last couple of years, major matches, U.S. Steel, World Speed Shoot, half the match as far as guns is comprised of those 3 divisions. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, 650 guns at the World Speed Shoot last year, and 340 of them were PCC, rimfire rifle, or rimfire pistol.
Well, you know why, Jeff? We may have had this discussion before. Do you know why?
It's fun to hit.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's exactly
Exactly why. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's for damn sure the reason. And that's why Carry Optics was catching on. That's why PCC's killing it in USPSA. It's like, it's funner to hit stuff, man, and it's harder to hit stuff with an iron-sighted pistol. And that's 100% why. And there's nothing at all in the world wrong with that. I like to hit shit too.
Yeah.
But that's why, man.
Well, you've worked your steel challenge matches and run them and all that. You get somebody new out there, and they're like, "Oh, I just got my new Glock or my new Smith & Wesson," and they come out there and they completely get demoralized. Roundabout's pretty easy. Smoke and Hope's pretty easy, but they get on Pendulum and they're like, "I just went through a full mag and I didn't hit a thing." And you look at him and you're like, "Do you have a 22? You'll enjoy this game a lot more with a 22. It's a lot of fun, less recoil, and put a dot on it and come out here and have some fun." And I shot rimfire pistol for like 15 months exclusively. And it was great because I learned how to go fast with that gun and then started applying it to all the other guns that I shoot. And then, of course, I got into center fire, and then it's a whole different ball of wax where I actually have to draw this gun. I don't get to start from low ready. This is,
right.
And that's
right.
For me, that's been the resurgence for me in my.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, on a philosophical level of the sport, we were, we did stay home today. School. My wife's a teacher, and school was closed, and daycare's closed, so we stayed around here, did nothing basically, but we watched John Wick 3, which I hadn't seen yet. It was on Netflix or Amazon or something. And, I often say that, and about the time I'm running Smoke and Hope with one of my tactical classes, and they're missing a 8-yard, 18 by 24-inch target, it's like, that's why this game is never going to be popular. We know we're never going to have Budweiser money. We're never going to be a spectator sport. Because people go out there and watch John Wick, and they're like, all right, well, you clearly never miss anything inside of 15 yards. Because they've never done it.
Yeah.
And when you go out there and do it, and, I see that every day with my classes. Again, competitors know, but especially the government classes and the tactical guys, and, they're bad at 7 yards on a full-size paper. But we get out there on Steel Challenge, and like you said, even roundabout. But, I mean, smoke and outer limits, and you hit any of these things, any of these stages, and the clock's on, their buddies are watching, and there's no shit anymore. There's no paper targets, like whether they hit or not, just like you said. Pressure's on, and boom, that's when it falls apart, man. It's, competition shooters are so much better, and they're on such a different level. But I found them to be pretty humble, too, because they know, like, I can miss an 18 by 24 on Smoke and Hope as fast as anybody in the world. But I could hit it a lot of times too. It's just, but you understand the difficulty level of this game and the speeds at which people are seeing stuff and processing stuff and moving the gun around. And you might be talking me into getting a 22 rifle, because I've never shot this game with a 22 rifle before, so might have to try that.
Well, I know you're training, but I'm gonna be there Saturday, and I'll throw mine in the back of the van, and if you're around, we'll break it out. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I love the PCC, and Steve shoots in both, and Steve shoots in both really fast. It's actually funny. I actually think I shoot my PCC better than I shoot the rimfire rifle, and we've actually had that discussion on why that is. But it's a lot of fun. And again, if you go out there, yes, you're an extreme competitor. I think we're all competitors. Most people drawn to the shooting sports tend to be A-type, and they want to win and all that kind of stuff. But if you can get out there and just go, I'm competing. Steel Challenge is a great sport too, where you're saying I'm competing for myself, because it's the same stages every time within, reason, Pendulum might be one that's not perfect, but they're set up generally the same way. and you can gauge how well you're doing. And so you can go out
Yeah.
and you get beat, but you got better because you know what you shot before and you know what you just shot now.
That's a great point. That's a great point. And I tell that to everybody as well. It's like most people you talk to in the shooting sports either love Steel Challenge or hate Steel Challenge, and it's both for the same reason, that it's always the same.
Right.
But I tell everybody, like, that's why I like it, because if I go out here today and shoot 85 and I come back tomorrow and shoot 84, well, that's gooder. If I shoot 87, well, that's suckier. So, steel doesn't lie, and you know where you stand. And on that note, you can look back. I don't know exactly when they changed the stages last, but I mean, you could look back 10 years, 8 years for sure.
Yeah.
And, compare your times to the best in the world and know where you stand. So, yeah, that's a good point.
All right. Well, Shannon, great talking with you. I don't know if I'll see you this weekend, but I will be out there. I'm going to come to your match. I've got to keep the practice up. Steve, give out our, what's it called? Coupon code. Yeah, that's it. Give out our coupon code.
Yeah, use coupon ST podcast 10 for 10% off at Range Store. Shannon, thanks so much. I know you had other ways that you could have spent the last hour with us. I really appreciate you taking time, and good luck at your next match, and hopefully I get to see you again soon sometime.
My pleasure, guys. Enjoyed it. I'll come back anytime. You guys have a good night.
All right, thanks, man. See you.
Good night.